Oregon's uniform revolution. Oregon started this whole mess back in 1999, and honestly, they've never looked back. The Ducks were just another decent Pac-10 team that most people forgot about by November. Then Phil Knight, the Nike founder and Oregon alum, decided to turn his old school into a walking billboard for his company. The result was revolutionary. Oregon became known for wearing what seems like a different uniform combination for every single game of the season. Contrast that against schools like Alabama and Penn State, who haven't changed their look in eons. Then Oregon comes out in different styles every Saturday, just because they could. The colors got more electric, black became a primary color, and those silver helmets were so shiny you could probably see them from Portland. It was complete blasphemy to traditionalists, but it worked like crazy. The uniforms weren't just random either. Oregon started creating themed looks with actual meaning behind them. In 2017, they wore uniforms designed by kids who'd beaten cancer. They paid homage to Lewis and Clark on the Oregon Trail. What Oregon figured out is that once people started tuning in just to see what they were wearing, they might stick around to watch the actual game. Boise State's blue turf. Boise State's blue turf might be the most recognizable gimmick in all of college sports, and it started with one guy having a crazy idea on an airplane. Back in 1986, athletic director Gene Blameyer was flying somewhere when he realized the Broncos were about to spend $750,000 to replace their old green turf with new green turf, and nobody would even notice the upgrade. So he thought, why not do something different? Why not make it blue to match the school colors and create a home field advantage that visiting teams had never experienced before? The idea seemed insane, but it worked beyond anyone's wildest dreams. The blue turf at what's now called Albertson Stadium became legendary. Boise State went on an incredible run of home dominance. 156 wins and just 15 losses in regular season home games since 1999, including a 65-game winning streak from 2001 to 2011. Whether the blue turf actually helped or not, it definitely got people talking and gave the Broncos an identity that transcended their small market status. Here's the kicker, though. Boise State actually trademarked their blue turf and hired lawyers to enforce it. Any school that wants to install colored turf has to get permission from Boise State first, or they'll find themselves in court. The success of Boise State inspired schools like Eastern Washington and Coastal Carolina to venture into the colored turf world, and it definitely catches your attention when scrolling through the many games on television on Saturdays. Maryland's flag obsession. Maryland's transformation into a uniform spectacle is probably the wildest success story in college football fashion. When Kevin Plank started Under Armour, he was just a former Maryland special teamer with an idea about compression shorts. But once his company took off, he made sure his alma mater became the poster child for wild uniform designs. Maryland's state flag had been sitting in relative obscurity for decades. Sure, the red, black, and yellow colors were part of the school's look, but nobody thought incorporating a state flag into a uniform template was going to be a style choice. Under Armour changed all that by making the flag pattern a central part of Maryland's football identity. Suddenly, that unique checkerboard design was everywhere. Helmets, jerseys, pants, you name it. The Terrapins became known almost entirely for what they looked like rather than how they played. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that approach. In a sport where recruiting is everything, standing out visually can be just as important as winning games. The flag uniforms became so popular that Maryland fans started wearing the pattern to games, and the state flag itself became a point of pride that extended way beyond football. Helmet stickers. Helmet stickers might seem simple now, but they represent one of the most widespread attention-grabbing traditions in college football. The origin story gets murky depending on who you ask, but the impact is undeniable. The most commonly held origin story comes from Ohio State, with Woody Hayes and trainer Ernie Biggs having come up with the idea. The story is that in 1968, Ohio State started using Buckeye leaf stickers as positive reinforcement. Miami of Ohio says they were doing it in 1965. Nebraska points to Gene Stauber using them as early as 1955. Rutgers insists that Dewey King started it in 1961 with star decals inspired by World War II fighter planes. Whoever started it, the concept spread like wildfire because the psychological impact was real. Players genuinely wanted those stickers, and opposing teams noticed when someone had a helmet covered in them. It was a simple way to recognize individual achievement while building team culture. These days, over 20 Division I schools use some version of helmet stickers. Mississippi State has bulldogs, Michigan uses footballs with Wolverines, West Virginia has muskets. Some schools only give them out for academic achievements, others for team wins, and some for individual performance. If you're loving these wild college football stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're posting content like this every single day. TCU's Texture Madness. TCU took Oregon's uniform philosophy and cranked it up to 11 with some of the most textured, patterned uniforms you've ever seen. The Horned Frogs are another Nike school that jumped on the busier is better train, and nobody does patterns quite like them. They've got more designs than books in the Bible, and they're not afraid to put them on anything. Their 2014 uniform literally highlighted the blood that horned frogs can spit out of their eyes as a defense mechanism, dubbed frog skin. That's commitment to the bit right there. The textures and patterns aren't just random. They're designed to catch the eye and create visual chaos that supposedly intimidates opponents. Whether that actually works or not is debatable, but it definitely gets people talking. TCU's uniforms have become so elaborate that fans tune in just to see what wild combination they'll wear next. The Horned Frogs have embraced the idea that in a crowded television landscape, being loud and visually striking is better than being ignored. Their uniforms have helped them maintain relevance even when their on-field performance hasn't always matched the flash of their gear. Miami's turnover chain. Miami brought bling to college football in a way that nobody saw coming with their turnover chain. The Hurricanes introduced this massive, gaudy chain in 2017 as a way to celebrate defensive turnovers, and it became an instant sensation. The chain itself is ridiculous, a thick gold chain with a massive U pendant covered in diamonds. When a Miami player forces a turnover, they get to wear the chain on the sideline, and the celebration that follows is pure theater. Players pose for photos, the crowd goes wild, and social media explodes. What makes the turnover chain brilliant is that it perfectly captures Miami's personality: flashy, confident, and unapologetically over the top. The chain is just one of many anymore, with many schools now coming up with their own versions. Georgia has a turnover bone, LSU has turnover beads, and dozens of other programs have created their own turnover celebrations. The chain is just another tool to help Miami recruit players and gives the program a fun icon for the fun that exists in the game. It's become as much a part of Miami football as their orange and green uniforms, and it perfectly represents how a simple gimmick can become a genuine tradition. NIL Recruiting Content Studios. College football programs have figured out that in the NIL era, you don't just need great facilities. You need facilities that help your players make money. Enter the Content Studio, the newest arms race in college recruiting that's part marketing lab, part social media factory, and part recruiting gimmick all rolled into one. Schools are now building professional-grade content creation spaces where players can film brand deals, social media content, and promotional videos. These aren't just rooms with good lighting. We're talking about full production studios with multiple camera setups, professional lighting rigs, green screens, and editing suites that would make YouTube creators jealous. The concept is brilliant from a recruiting standpoint. When you're trying to convince a 5-star recruit to come to your school, being able to say, "We'll help you build your personal brand and make money while you're here," is a pretty compelling pitch. These studios give programs a tangible way to show recruits how they'll support their NIL opportunities. Texas A&M was one of the early adopters, building a state-of-the-art content creation facility that looks more like a Hollywood production house than a college football building. Players can walk in, film a quick social media post or brand partnership video, and have it edited and ready to post within hours. Massive locker room and facility wars. The facility arms race in college football has gotten completely out of hand, and honestly, it's amazing to watch. What started as nice locker rooms has evolved into recruiting showrooms that are designed more for social media virality than actual function. These places look more like luxury resorts than football facilities. LSU might have won the facility war with their player lounge that includes actual nap pods, individual sleeping chambers where players can rest between classes and practice. The Tigers also have a barbershop, a players-only cafeteria with a full-time chef, and locker rooms that look like they belong in a 5-star hotel. Clemson took a different approach with their facility that includes a two-story slide connecting different levels of the building. Yes, a slide. Because apparently walking downstairs isn't exciting enough for modern college football players. They also have a miniature golf course, a bowling alley, and a movie theater. Oregon, never to be outdone, built a facility that includes a hot tub, a cold tub, and recovery rooms that look like something out of a sci-fi movie. Their locker room has individual climate control for each player's space because heaven forbid someone be slightly too warm while getting dressed. The craziest part is that these facilities are designed specifically to go viral on social media. Programs know that recruits will film tours and post them online, so every detail is crafted to look impressive on Instagram and TikTok. The actual functionality sometimes seems secondary to the wow factor. Penn State's traditional uniform look. Penn State represents the complete opposite approach to flashy attention-seeking, and their plain white helmets have become just as iconic as any wild uniform combination. Joe Paterno famously refused to put any decals on his team's helmets, saying nobody achieves anything without the others. The Nittany Lions have stuck with their simple, classic look through decades of uniform evolution around them. No names on jerseys, no helmet stickers, no wild color combinations, just clean, traditional football uniforms that let the play speak for itself. What's interesting is that Penn State's refusal to chase trends has become its own form of attention grabbing. In a world where everyone is trying to be louder and flashier, being quietly confident and traditional stands out just as much. The plain white helmets with a single blue stripe have become one of the most recognizable looks in college football, precisely because they're so different from everything else. Penn State has proven that sometimes the best way to get attention is to refuse to chase it. Their approach has created its own recruiting advantage, as some players are drawn to the program's emphasis on team-first football and traditional values. The anti-flash philosophy has become just as much a part of Penn State's identity as Oregon's uniform changes are part of theirs. Arizona State's pitchfork everything. Arizona State has jumped on the uniform fashion show bandwagon, and their current deal with Adidas means you literally have no idea what you're going to see when they take the field. The Sun Devils will stick a pitchfork logo anywhere if you let them. The constant uniform changes have become part of Arizona State's identity as a program that's always willing to try something different. Whether it's desert-themed camouflage patterns, copper-colored helmets, or completely blackout uniforms, the Sun Devils are always experimenting. What makes Arizona State's approach work is that it fits perfectly with their party school reputation and desert location. The wild uniforms feel authentic to the program's personality, rather than forced or gimmicky. The uniform variety has helped Arizona State stay relevant in recruiting conversations and social media discussions. Even when the team isn't having its best season, people are still talking about what they're wearing, which keeps the program in the national conversation. The Sun Devils have proven that consistency isn't always necessary. Sometimes being unpredictably flashy is just as effective as having a signature look that never changes. College football's embrace of flashy stunts and attention-grabbing gimmicks has completely changed the sport's landscape. What started as simple attempts to stand out have become genuine traditions that define entire programs. Whether it's Oregon's uniform revolution, Boise State's blue turf, or Miami's turnover chain, these stunts have proven that sometimes being loud and flashy is exactly what a program needs to succeed. Thanks for watching. If you want more wild college football content, hit subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.